Welcome back to our biology class. In our last classes, we have discussed about the transportation of materials or essential items in animals. Now in today's class, we'll discuss about the transportation of materials in plants. Before I start today's class, let us give a little bit revision. Some terms are there which, if it is not clear to you, you won't understand this chapter properly. So, first term, that is diffusion. We have already studied this about diffusion, osmosis, and all these things in earlier classes, in class 9 particularly. Okay, without much delay, let us go to our chapter. Now, what is diffusion? You see, the movement of molecules is in the direction of concentration gradient, that is, from a region of higher concentration to that of lower concentration. The diffusion can occur only when the concentration of the diffusing substance is not uniform throughout the system, and the process can continue only as long as the difference between the concentration is maintained. Several gases, liquids, or solutes can diffuse simultaneously at different rates and in different direction in the same place without interfering with each other. This is why oxygen diffuses into the leaf and carbon dioxide diffuses out of the leaf simultaneously through the same stomata during the process of respiration. The rate of diffusion of gases is faster as compared to that of liquids and solutes. In case of animals, like in unicellular organisms like amoeba, paramecium, transport of materials mainly takes place by the process of diffusion only. Next term, that is osmosis. Now, what is osmosis? It is a special type of diffusion of liquids where two solutions of different concentrations are separated by means of a semi-permeable membrane. Now, diffusion of solvent, which is mainly water, from the solution of lower concentration to the solution of higher concentration through a semi-permeable membrane until a state of dynamic equilibrium is attained is known as osmosis. Now, the osmotic entry of water into a cell, organ or system is called endosmosis, while the osmotic withdrawal of water from the same is described as exosmosis. So this goes about diffusion and osmosis. Differences are there. Now, another thing we should know, that is osmosis and stomatal activity. Process of osmosis plays a great role in regulating the opening and closing of stomata. Stomata are the pores found mainly on the lower side of leaf surface. These stomata are guarded by the cells known as guard cells. Two factors which mainly control the opening and closing of stomata are, we have already studied this one earlier, What is that? That are light intensity and water. Stomata plays a vital role in exchange of gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide, and also in transpiration. Inner wall of the gut cell of the stomata is thicker while it is thinner on the other side. Now during daytime what happens? During daytime the rate of photosynthesis is more, thus leading to accumulation of sugars in the gut cells. Increase in the amount of sugar increases the osmotic pressure, which draws in water from nearby cells. That is termed as endosmosis. It leads to turgidity of the gut cells. Now, as a result of this turgidity, outer thin walls are stretched out, thus widening the stomatal opening lying in between. But during night, when the rate of photosynthesis is 0, carbon dioxide gets accumulated in the gut cell, and this carbon dioxide combines with water in the gut cell to form carbonic acid. With the increase in acid, sugars get polymerized to form polysaccharide starch. It leads to exosmosis, that is, water molecules start moving out of the gut cells. The cells lose their turgidity by closing the stomatal opening. Now we'll come to our main point, that is transport system in plants. Now in plants, the transport of water and minerals from the roots to all other parts of the plant takes place through xylem. There is continuous absorption of water and minerals from the soil by the root cell. This produces a force that pushes water in the upward direction. Okay? Now, transportation of water from the surface of leaf also produces a pulling force which causes the water to move upward. Again, the food prepared by the leaves is transported to various parts of the plant for the purpose of storage or consumption through phloem. In plants, transport system mainly consist of tube-like structures, xylem and phloem, organized in different ways in different plants. These we call as the vascular system of plants. Now, in case of transportation, first one will study about absorption of water and minerals. Root system of the plants is mainly responsible for the absorption of water. The absorption of water mainly takes place at the terminal ends of the root, but maximum occurs in the area of root hairs. A root hair contains cell sap which has higher concentration of salts as compared to the soil water. Now, these differences in the concentration leads to the setting up of the process of osmosis. Therefore, water diffuses into the root hair. As a result of this, cells of the root hair becomes turgid as compared to the adjoining cells of the cortex. That is, Root hair cells have now less osmotic pressure as compared to cortex cells, which results in passing of water to adjoining cells one after another in a chain through the cortex of the root to finally enter the xylem vessel. Absorption of water is thus by passive absorption. Clear? Absorption of water is thus by passive absorption. Root pressure. Turgor in the root cells builds up the root pressure. What is that root pressure? It is the pressure under which water passes from the living cells of a root into the xylem. This pressure is built up due to cell-to-cell osmosis in the roots. As one turgid cell passes the next cell, the force of flow of water increases inward. Due to root pressure, water rises up to a certain height only. This force alone cannot push water to the top of a tall tree. Other factors which contributes to the upward movement are capillary action, transpiration pool, and cohesion and adhesion of water. Now this goes about water absorption. Now absorption of minerals. Absorption of mineral occurs as ions rather than as salts against the concentration gradient by using energy, and this process is called active transport. Okay, this process is called active transport. Energy used is derived from the process of respiration. These mineral ions absorbed get accumulated in the root hairs, which diffuse into the cortex and reach up to the endodermis. Okay, it reaches up to the endodermis. This movement of ions is passive. Later, movement of ions from endodermis to xylem is an active process. Now, most important thing, that is ascent of sap. After this active process of transportation, minerals along with water are carried to various parts of the plant. On entering the leaves, they get assimilated into organic compounds, which finally get redistributed to other parts of the plant through phloem. The upward movement of water and minerals from the root towards top of the plant is known as ascent of sap. Clear? Again I am telling, after this active process of transportation, minerals along with water are carried to various parts of the plant. On entering the leaves, they get assimilated into organic compounds, which finally get redistributed to other parts of the plant through phloem. The upward movement of water and minerals from the root towards top of the plant is known as ascent of sap. This ascent of sap may be affected by different factors, okay, like root pressure, the capillary action, or the transpiration pull. Now we'll discuss about translocation of food. In your book, it is there under this point of transport of food and other substances. After that, I'll explain what is transpiration. Now, transport of food and other substances. The food prepared by the leaves is transported to various parts of the plants in the solution form through a process known as translocation. Try to understand carefully. The food prepared by the leaves is transported to various parts of the plants in the solution form through a process known as translocation. This process mainly takes place through phloem. Organic substances which are mainly manufactured in the leaves are supplied to all non-green parts of the plants for growth, storage, and carry out various metabolic activities. The distance may range from a few feet to several feet. The movement of organic compounds is along a concentration gradient, that is, from the region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. Now, translocation of food or the transport of food and other substances, it occurs through various steps. Let us see what are the steps. The process of manufacture of food, that is photosynthesis, occurs in the leaves. Mainly mesophyll cells of the leaves containing chloroplast are involved in this. Food or sugars formed as a result of the above process diffuses into the phloem cells of leaf veins. Because of this osmotic potential, a phloem cells lowers, and as a result of this, water from the xylem enters the seed tubes, which are elongated tubular cells placed end to end, having perforated plates in between them. Okay, now the hydrostatic pressure, that is due to the entry of water, the pressure that develops, that is known as hydrostatic pressure. Now, the hydrostatic pressure in these sieve tubes pushes the phloem sap down towards the root, having a low turgor pressure. And in this way, food material is translocated between the source of food material to the sink, which is the site of utilization. This downward translocation of translocation of food. Upward translocation of food is the movement of food from storage organs to the developing fruits, that is termed as upward translocation. Okay, the movement of food from storage organs to the developing fruits, flowers and birds in the upward direction. Similarly, another translocation is there, that is called radial translocation. It is the transverse movement of food within the stem from center to outside, like pith to the cortex. So this goes about translocation or transport of food and other substances. I think all of you know what is xylem and phloem. Let me give a brief discussion on the xylem and phloem. Now, xylem consists of tracheids, vessels, xylem fibers and xylem parenchyma. Tracheids are long tubular cells with tapering ends. They have thick cell walls with thickening of various types and pits. Water flows from one tracheids to another through pits. Vessels are made of cylindrical cells placed end to end with their intervening walls absent. In flowering plants, both tracheids and vessels conduct water, while in non-flowering plants, tracheids are only conducting cells. Similarly, phloem consists of sheath tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma. Sheath tube helps in the movement of food materials. These are elongated cells placed end to end. Now, their end walls are oblique with large number of pores. Next, we will study what is transpiration. The loss of water in the form of vapors from the exposed part of a plant is termed as transpiration. The loss of water in the form of vapors from the exposed part of a plant is termed as transpiration. Now, there are mainly 4 types of transpiration. Cuticular transpiration, that is loss of water through the cuticles which lies outside the epidermal layers of leaves, stem and flowers, etc. Stomatal transpiration, it is the most important type of transpiration in which loss of water is through stomata. Lenticular transpiration, lenticels are the pores in the stem of the plants. Loss of water through them is known as lenticular transpiration. Bark transpiration is the loss of water through bark of the tree. Now I'll go to what are the importance of transpiration. Note down carefully importance of transpiration. We have discussed what is ascent of sap. Okay. Now here transpiration makes possible for the water to be raised from the xylem of the roots to the top part of the plants by producing a suction force. Because of transpiration from the leaves, cell sap is concentrated and thus increasing osmotic pressure. This draws water from the cells, from the lower levels, and finally from soil. Thus, a continuous chain of water is formed in the xylem tubes, and this is known as transpiration pool. Another importance of transpiration is that removal of excess of water. Transpiration helps in removal of excess of water. Next importance is cooling effect. Transpiration also plays a great role in the regulation of temperature. Since evaporation reduces temperature, it is useful to plants on hot days. Absorption and distribution of salts. Next importance of transpiration is absorption and distribution of salts. Transpiration produces a continuous water current and thereby helps in absorption and distribution of salts. Now, for your knowledge, you just know these important points, that what are the factors that affect transpiration. What are the factors then? The various factors are there. I won't go in details all these things. The factors that affects transpiration are sunlight, then transpiration also influences by humidity, then temperature, wind, then available soil water, and of course the structural features of plants. So these are the factors which affects the rate of transpiration. Now this transport in xylem, which is simple physical force, the translocation in phloem requires energy. Now where from this energy comes? It is the ATP that provides the energy for the transfer of sucrose into the phloem tissue. This transfer of sugars increases the osmotic pressure of the tissue, causing water to move into it. Okay. Now this increase in pressure moves the material in the phloem to tissue which have less pressure. Now in this way, phloem is able to move materials according to the plant needs. For example, you can say during spring season, sugar stored in root or stem tissue would be translocated to birds which needs energy to grow. So this is about transpiration in plants. Now try to find out the differences between transpiration and translocation. And also this is the end of this chapter. In next chapter we'll do excretion. Okay.